All right, so we can now talk about doing some more powerful things with layers. Up until now, when we've used the brush, all the markings that we've been making, you might have noticed, are going on to this background layer in the Layers panel. So this is the default setup for a new document where you have one layer, it's the background layer, and it's locked. However, we have the ability to create more layers. And what layers are, they're like kind of individual mini canvases that are stacked one atop each other. So let's show this in action. Let me leave this stuff on the background layer. I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. So you can do this, like everything, in many ways. So first, let me show you in the menu, because I always like the menu. Layer, new, and layer. So anything to do with layers will be found in the layer menu. And in the new section, you can create a new layer over here. A window pops up asking you to name the layer. I'm going to leave it layer 1 for now, but in the future, when you start working on more realistic projects, naming layers becomes very important. I'm going to push OK. And you see now we've added a new layer to the Layers panel. Let me create a couple other layers just for this demonstration, and I'll create them in the different ways that you can do it. So at the bottom, all the way at the bottom here of the Layers panel, there's a little button shortcut for you to do it. So it's the one just to the left of the trash icon. So I'm going to click on that plus, and that's a quick way of creating a new layer. You see, it did not ask me with that pop-up window if I wanted to name the layer. It just created the new layer with the next name in sequence. And this is common with most panels where they have things at the bottom and also at the top. So at the top of the panel, you see this little hamburger menu over here. If you click on it, it shows you basically a bunch of things that you could do with the layers. Unfortunately, it's outside of my recording window, so you probably can't see it. But in that window, you will find an option to click on New Layer, and it behaves exactly like the layer menu on top. So let me create another layer. We now have 3 layers going on over here. So let's show them in action. To work with a layer, first you need to activate it in the Layers panel. So let me start with layer 1. I'm going to use the brush, which is already selected, and start painting with blue. There we go. And you'll see what's happening is I'm painting over the background layer. Although there's a very big difference here. Notice how the marks I'm making are being isolated to this layer over here, whereas the marks I made previously are on the background layer over there. So now I'm working independently with the layers, and they don't really affect each other. So neat little thing you can do with layers is temporarily hide it. So I'm going to click on the eyeball over here to hide the layer to show you that everything we did on the background layer is still there. So it's all preserved. So I'm going to click in this empty space where the eyeball was just to bring it back. Let's go ahead and activate layer 2. We could change the color and start painting again. And as you can see, all of these things are working independently on their own layers. Let's go ahead with yellow on top. And there we go. So that's it. The layer that's at the top of the layers panel will be on top of all the layers beneath it. Other things you could do with this panel, you can change this position. So you can actually click and drag on the layer in the layers panel to drop it in a new location in the stack. So if I want to take this layer at the bottom, I could click and drag and bring it up. And you see that little blue line appearing in between the layers. That's telling you where it's going to go when you drop it. And that's changing the stacking order of these layers. You can change a layer's opacity. So now with layer 3 activated, I can go up here in the layers panel where it says opacity. And you could click on this little arrow and change the opacity. So I'm clicking to drag the opacity down. And you can see as I do it, it's becoming more transparent. Whereas at 100% opacity means it's completely opaque and you cannot see through it. So if I reduce this to, let's say, somewhere near 50%, switch this one over here to about 50%. So we're now creating some blending where the layers that are transparent start blending with the layers that are beneath them. Let me go ahead and undo that. Naming layers, like I said, it becomes very important, so I'm going to show you how to do that right now. It's actually by double-clicking on the layer text. Be careful, however, because this layer is actually quite interactive and it has different things you could do depending on where you click. So if you click on the layer thumbnail, it will do one thing. If you click on the area outside the text, it will do another thing. And finally, if you want to do what I'm trying to get you to do, you have to click on the text. So you have to double click on the text very precisely, and then you could type a new name. So this is my blue. I'm going to type it and press enter. I'm going to double click on layer 2, change it to green, and then layer 3, make it yellow. The background layer is a special layer, okay? Um, it's a little bit different in the way it behaves because you might have noticed when you create a new layer, it's completely empty. This grid over here that you're seeing is indicating that there are no pixels there, that it's actually nothing there, and what we're seeing is the background of the software. So there's not actually this grid on the canvas, it's just indicating that there are no pixels there. This is a good time to show the delete button, so you can trash a layer by clicking on the trash icon here. You can also right click on a layer to see the available options, and you can see delete layers right there. And you can also go to the layer menu up here, layer, delete, and you can delete the layer like that. You can also press the delete button on your keyboard. So I'm going to press delete, and the yellow layer is now gone. Like I said, always many different ways to do things inside Photoshop. But I was talking about this background layer. So right now this background layer has this special symbol on it because it's locked. So this prevents you from doing things like dragging the layer and changing its position or doing some other things. But sometimes you actually want to get rid of this. So to unlock the background layer, you simply click on the lock over here. You see, and the name now changes to layer 0. So it is no longer a background layer. It now behaves like a normal layer, and you can do things like dragging it around. And remember I said the eraser functions like the brush and it's erasing with the background color? Well, now we can see that the eraser will behave a little bit differently. So if I switch to the eraser by pressing the letter E, and I'm now on layer 0, which is active, and I start erasing, you see now we're not painting with the background color, we're actually erasing pixels. So this is the behavior of the eraser tool when you're working with normal layers, basically layers that are not the background. So let me turn this one off, and you can see that the other two layers, the green and the blue, they have no background. So when you actually use the eraser, you're actually erasing those pixels, and you're not painting with the background color. So that locking feature is actually pretty nifty. So we have the ability to lock our layers ourselves. So for example, I want to keep the green layer visible, but I want to lock it so I don't accidentally do something to it. You can activate the layer and then click on this little lock over here. And that adds the little lock icon. So now if I go to try and paint on it or erase it, you see, I click and it says, oh, could not use the eraser because the layer is locked. To unlock the layer, I think you could click, you could click on the lock, or you can simply click again on the lock icon at the top of the panel. More things you can do with layers. You can duplicate layers. You can create fill layers. And you can do a bunch of other things, but that's going to be enough for this video because this gives you all the tools that you need in order to do the first exercise. So I'll stop this video and we'll head on over to look at exercise 1 shortly.